From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to Lisa Mitz. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today. So you're right back when you started your career. So can you tell me how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been professionally recording and writing probably for 15 years now, coming up on that. I did write a lot of music over the years, starting in 2003. um, through a ministry that my husband and I started. So I did a lot of praise and worship and that kind of thing. But then I went into the actual studio to record with a producer and everything for the first time in 2010. So coming up on 15 years.
So what was the experience like going to the recording studio when you first started?
It was really cool. I knew that even though I had been raised with music since I was a kid, 6 years old, I had always been trained pretty much classically in piano, and I had sang and did all kinds of things, growing up, theater and everything, but I had never worked with a producer, somebody who could maybe hear what my song was the way it is raw when you write it and you're just strumming it on a guitar, playing it on a piano keyboard. And then for him to be able to take that and make it so much more, make it the full way that you envision it, that was really cool. And the more that I was hooked, the studio has become in many ways my happy place because it's where the magic, the creativity just comes together in such a special way.
So can you tell me more about your debut single called Waiting for You?
Well, that actually was years later. That was the first single I had done. It was in 2013 or 14. Um, I had released a couple of albums before that, but I had reached out to a different person I had heard about. He's actually very talented. He's from Canada. His name is John Bryant. And I had heard about John, reached out to him when I was living in the Seattle area in Washington. And we got together and wrote, well, I had written the song. He brought this kind of fun country rock feel to it. And yeah, so that was my first actual single, even though I'd gotten to work with another very talented artist who's become very well known. His name is Alan Stone. Prior to that, Alan had yet to be discovered. When we co-wrote an album together in 2011 called You Found Me, as the album came out in October of 2011, he was on late night television, Conan Live and Jimmy Kimmel, and had gotten signed to Capitol Records. So that was the last time I got to work with Alan. We had done a couple of things together for a few years. But then I met John and did that in 2013, that single.
So can you tell me more about single it is called The Breakthrough?
So that's a cool story. So the Breakthrough EP for me was significant in that it was the first time I got to work with my producer now, who I have worked with for 5.5 years, Brandon B. I had heard about Brandon for many years from all the people I had worked with would mention to me, oh, you should meet Brandon. He's so great and such a talented producer and artist. But he was always gone. He was never in Washington, and I just never connected. until 2019. And I finally was able, I reached out and we went into the studio in Seattle, actually in Tacoma, at Pacific Studios. And I had been really struggling, feeling like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel like I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm ever gonna have a breakthrough in my writing, in my music. And but I brought these like three songs to Brandon, and he said to me, "I think you're a really good writer. I'd like to do something again with you." And that was like, okay, I think I'm not going to quit today. And so he did a great job with that EP, and I submitted it to the International Singer-Songwriters Association for their awards in 2020, and it actually received the Gold Album of the Year that year. So it really was a breakthrough in so many ways for me. And since then, I have released, oh my gosh, I think five more albums with or EPs with Brandon, countless singles. I think altogether it's like 39 songs that we've done, and going back in the studio again, flying out to Washington at the end of April to do another one. So it's been a real that was a huge breakthrough, and it's been an amazing journey since
It's been
then.
a bit of a roller coaster journey.
Yeah.
So, I know that you did your awards big on your wall behind you there.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I
Well, what's
now.
that? What's that on the wall behind you? Is that your CD in the wall behind you there?
Oh, the wall behind me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. It's those were my first couple of albums. Back when CDs, in 2010, and back when they were a thing. And then some of these are like posters of places that I've played at, big concerts or well-known venues. I do also an annual benefit concert that's become huge, called Evening of Destiny, because as an artist, I have a real passion to giving back and to helping for human trafficking survivors and to bring awareness and prevention, because it's it's the second highest crime in the world, right, with drugs. And so that has for 12 years now been a passion of my heart. And it all came out of my music. So I do a huge benefit concert every year for that. And it's grown so much now. We have major celebrities come in to speak after I do the 45-minute concert portion. We have all kinds of leaders, state, national, and even celebrities that will come and speak for this important cause. And we raise money for a foundation that my husband and I started called Destiny House Restoration Center. And we founded that with our first benefit concert in 2012.
So, what's your favourite musical instrument you got behind you there?
Well, I would say my baby grand, that is my favorite. I have a new Yamaha keyboard, and I've got all kinds of guitars. I've got a big baby Taylor. I love the Taylor, and I've also got a Telly Fender. What do you call it? Electric guitar. Had brain freeze there. Yeah, so my lead guitar, which I don't play lead guitar, but I do have an electric guitar that I like to mess around with and every so often bring into a show. But I have a great band, so I let them do
Do the
that. And
stuff. Do the stuff.
I usually stick to acoustic guitar or keyboard. Yeah.
But plus your voice, that's a musical instrument.
Yeah. What, I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, plus your voice, that's a musical
Oh,
instrument.
oh, for sure. I mean, a lot of people perhaps don't realize that vocally it's so important. You can have the greatest band, but if your voice is not trained and you haven't been taking care of it and practicing and Sometimes even I will put my instrument aside if a song is so challenging vocally. I would rather just focus on that and give it all I have vocally and, put the instrument aside for the moment just to focus on that.
So it must have been quite hard being a singer-songwriter during COVID times.
Oh my goodness. I think all of us, right? It was very challenging. I personally had an entire year of shows booked. Some of them were going to be at my biggest venues at that point. So yeah, I took a big hit in income, had to do a lot of those living room things. I'm so glad. We actually moved out of Washington in 2021 and moved to Arizona. And that was a huge piece for me that I felt like I've got to get out where A, the sun is, because we don't see the sun a lot in Seattle when we were there. But also things were really open here. And I loved that. And I immediately, gosh, we moved in March and I started performing. I think it was by the end of April, beginning of May here, for solo as I got my band together. But yeah, that was a really tough year.
So can you tell me more about the single release called, earlier on this year called Double Life?
So Double Life is on my latest album, Broken Crayons, but I released it as a CD. I'm sorry, released it as a single. And it is the story really, it's an expression of my own challenge, living full out who I am, because I think many of us struggle with the inner and the outer. And, we might have gone through things. I know I have a story. I have challenges that I've gone through that I still struggle with sometimes. I know many other people do. I've been blessed to be able to talk to a lot of people, a lot of women especially. And so Double Life is the expression of my heart of needing so much of God's love to heal that inner so that the inner and the outer are the same.
So tell me more about your latest single that's called Hold My Heart. And there's a cover version. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's the very first time ever I'm releasing a cover song. Last summer, my producer Brandon had suggested, we should do a couple cover songs, and I brought in a couple musicians that had been playing with me at the time here, and we went into the studio, and so Hold My Heart is one of my favorite artists, Sarah Bareilles, who is just such an exquisite songwriter and so talented. And it is a very challenging song vocally. In fact, when I was in the studio, I'm thinking, why did I pick this song? Because it's not easy. But I am absolutely thrilled how it turned out. A big part of that is because of how my producer brought it all together. It's phenomenal. I really feel honored that I got to do that. And I'm excited for everybody to hear it. I do have one other cover that's coming out probably mid-March. And that one is, I'm also excited about. It's by the Cranberries, Zombie. And it's a great song. I perform it a lot. Everybody loves it. So yeah, so I am for the first time in my professional recording career, I'm coming out with a cover.
We look forward here to hearing them both. So can you tell me, what's it like being a independent artist for you?
Well, it's the passion of my heart that I discovered later in life. I mean, I as I mentioned, even though I was raised in music, I went to school to become a classical pianist. But after the first year of in college playing in front of juries and music theory, I said, I don't want to do this. And I left it. And I got married right away and had 4 kids and adopted 2. And life just took on a whole different direction, supported my husband a lot in his career. But when my youngest was 10, I really felt like I don't want to leave this earth with the music inside of me. I don't want to know, I don't want to have regrets, like what if I could have done this? And I really started having this thing in my heart that was rising up that said, right. And so that's when I started as a praise and worship leader in Christian music. And then I felt like I wanted to reach a lot of people with a message of hope and love and healing because of a lot of my own story of coming through a very challenging situation. And so it kind of all evolved where I started in step by step, and all of a sudden I found myself as an independent artist, recording regularly, writing, performing. And as we talked about before the show, if you are truly an independent artist professionally, you wear 10 different hats, and so besides the creative part, it's also the booking shows, it's the social media manager, it's the promotion, it's the creative designer for all the covers of the artwork. And it's just so much, so it's full time, but I love it. And I'm blessed and thankful that I get to do it. We'll see how much longer, it's the kind of thing though, it's like once a musician, always, and it does keep you young in that regard. And it keeps you feeling like you have purpose. And it's a way for me to touch and reach out to people that I never would meet otherwise. And because of that, I love it.
I know you got some gigs coming up, so next week, but continue any future gigs you got coming up in the near future?
Any new
gigs?
Oh yeah, so the gigs, yeah. So for next Wednesday, I've got a big show actually in Mesa, Arizona. And from what I'm hearing, it is going to be sold out, packed out room. It's a concert for a residential, McGavin Ranch is the name of it, community, but they've opened it up also to other people to come in and buy tickets. And then actually in February, I just was booked at a very famous venue, which I'm really excited about, called the Desert Botanical Gardens. People from all over come to see it in Phoenix. And I'll be doing a 4-hour show there on and off with breaks. They have a big festival called Vines and Finds. And then I've got a lot of shows coming starting in April. I'll be at a really well-known place here in Prescott a couple of nights. And I'm going to be out in Washington State recording, doing some shows out there the end of April, beginning of May. And then the summer fun starts here. I'm working on also finalizing a lot of other shows for the year.
So finally, can you tell my listeners, where can they find you on your social media?
So you can find me everywhere. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything Lisa Mitz Music. I'm on X, but I don't use it quite as much. Yeah, pretty much all my music is everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, YouTube Music, everywhere, Amazon. So
thank you. Let me chat to you today.
thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks again.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.